Welcome back to the Sunday Sports Update. Tony Ortiz, sports anchor reporter from 97.1 The Ticket, and you've also seen him on the Ford Lines Report Live, joining us to take a look at what happened. T.O., I wish we had better news, don't we? It's just, who would ever...
David, listen,
at
6-3, if you had told me that the Lions wouldn't make the playoffs this year, I'd have been stunned. Because at 6-3, with the lead in the division, the way that team was playing, the expectations were all there, and for this team to collapse and lose 5 of their last 6, it's just unacceptable. Unacceptable.
There was a moment in the game that a lot of Lions fans were talking about tonight.
Yep.
Okay, before overtime, Coach Schwartz, let's take a look at the video here, T.O. Where you were standing, could you see what he was saying?
I didn't see what he was saying. It was only on seeing it after the game that I finally got a look at what was going on. And for a coach to lose that kind of control, and I understand the frustration behind it. You're going to overtime in a game that a lot of people thought you should win. But to let that frustration out like that with the fans, that's unacceptable. You cannot do that. You cannot lose that kind of control if you are the head coach.
Tony, you've been in the Detroit market for over a decade. You've seen a lot of Lions football. Fans also wondering the future for Coach Schwartz now. What would you tell those fans who wonder, will he even be back?
I would tell them that there's a pretty good chance that there's going to be a coaching change. When you go from 6-3 to 7-8, when you fall out of the playoff race, when you cannot win the division, there's no chance. There's very little chance. I'd say slim and none would be the odds I'd put on it. There's still a chance with the big buyout, perhaps, that the Lions or front office may say, you know what, one more year. We'll give him another chance, but he'll be on the hot seat. But for the most part, the collapse that this team went through, David, I think Jim Schwartz's run is just about done as head coach.
It's so disappointing for Lions fans to see a productive effort by Drake Bell. 91 yards on 20 carries. We saw the touchdown. And Reggie Bush, he coughs up the football. That was a tough one.
That's a very tough one because turnovers have been the bane of this team's existence. They cannot turn the ball over. They don't have the talent that most other teams have. And when you turn the ball over to good teams or teams with good talent, the Giants are not a good team, David, but they do have good talent. You turn the ball over to them, they turn it into points. And that's what happened today. 17 of the Giants' 23 points came off of turnovers. If you're the Lions, you can't win games like that.
What does this say, Tony, in your opinion, covering this team every single day? What does this say right now about the Lions football? What does it say about the team after what happened?
I think what it says about this team is they have more work to do. This team is not a finished product yet. They are not a Super Bowl contender. They are a playoff contender, but there's still a lot of work to do. They have to now sit down and figure out where do they go next. Not only just the head coach, but what players do they want to bring back? What players are they going to let go? This is going to be a tough set of decisions for the front office, for Martin Mayhew, for Tom Lawan, for all of those guys. They're going to have to make some very tough decisions here.
Looking at the secondary, we saw Bill Bentley go down pretty hard. What did you hear after the game about him? Because we heard bits and pieces during the game.
What I heard,
he left.
Yeah, what I heard, though, was concussion. They at least went through the concussion protocols, but that was a tough hit when his head hit the back of when the back of his head, I should say, hit the field. That was a very tough hit, and for a minute there, it looked worse than it actually was, but still, he's a guy who's probably not going to play next week against Minnesota.
Matthew Stafford. Okay, I know a lot of fans have been talking about this too, the quality of quarterback that Stafford is. How do you assess Matthew Stafford?
I think he's a good NFL quarterback who needs some work.
Okay.
I like Matthew Stafford as a person, and I like some of the decision-making that he does. I love his arm. I think he's got one of the better arms in the NFL. But there's some problems. He's making too many mistakes, too many turnovers, and that's going to cost this team games. Matthew Stafford needs somebody in the offseason to work with him, maybe a quarterback guru or somebody who can help turn his game around.
Calvin Johnson, how did he look out there to you today?
David, when he played, he looked fine, but you could tell that knee injury, which has kept him from practicing, you could tell that is a factor for him, and it's bothering him, and he was limited. They spotted his appearances on the field today, and it's something that has to be taken care of in the offseason. If he's 100% healthy, that wide receiver core gets better. When he's not healthy, you start to see some of the problems with that wide receiver core. There isn't a number two, a solid number two. There's a bunch of guys. Nate's a good guy. But I don't know if he's a number two yet, or a number two right now in the NFL.
Now, we know Minnesota, the season finale in Minneapolis next Sunday, 1 o'clock. But if you're the Lions, Tony, the things that you need to address this offseason, starting with what be the secondary, in your opinion? Or?
Yeah, you need to address the two biggest needs you have. You need a number two receiver. You need someone who, at wide receiver, is going to play right behind Calvin. And the second thing you need to do is you need to upgrade the talent in your secondary. You have some good pieces, some good young pieces in the secondary, but, David, you need to upgrade it.
Tony, a few final thoughts. I appreciate you stopping by, but just anything else that really jumped out to you today from the ballgame that you want to address?
I just think that I give the fans all the credit in the world for supporting the Lions the way they have. But I said last week that I thought the loss was the most disappointing of the season. I amend that. This one's the most disappointing because this was a team in the New York Giants that you should have beaten. You had more talent then. You were playing better than them. And the fact that the Lions did not get the job done, and now they're out of the playoffs after starting the year 6-3, this is the most disappointing loss of the season, and this has been a very disappointing season.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Ortiz, again from 97.1 The Ticket, sports anchor reporter, helping us break down what happened at Ford Field in the regular season finale for the Lions. Always good to see you, Tony.
I wish I had better news. Yeah, I was
about to say. Wish we did too.
Here I am. I'm just the bearer of bad news today.
But we'll see you soon, though.
Yes, we will.
And happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too, David.
Take care.